The Reverend Lancelot Edward Threlkeld was an English missionary. Threlkeld was son of Samuel Joseph Threlkeld, was born in England. He was well educated, and in 1814 the London Missionary Society accepted him as a missionary to the heathen. In the following year he was ordained as a missionary and sailed for Tahiti, but the illness and subsequent death of his child detained Threlkeld for a year at Rio de Janeiro, where he started a Protestant church. He left for Sydney on the 22nd of January 1817, arrived on the 11th of May, after a short stay went to the South Sea Islands, and arrived at Amio in November. A missionary station was formed at Rio, and Threlkeld worked there for nearly 7 years. His wife died, and being left with 4 children he returned to Sydney in 1824. A mission to the Aborigines was founded at Lake Macquarie. 10,000 acres were reserved, and Threlkeld was appointed missionary. He went to live with the Aborigines on the reservation, and in 1826 published specimens of a dialect of the Aborigines of New South Wales. In 1828 he came in conflict with the London Missionary Society, which objected to his incurring unauthorized expenses in connection with the mission. Threlkeld in reply published a pamphlet which the treasurer of the society described as virulent. The connection with the missionary society was severed, and it was decided that Threlkeld should be allowed to continue his work with a salary of £150 a year from the colonial government. He was also allowed 4 convict servants with rations. In 1834 he published an Australian grammar comprehending the principles and natural rules of the language as spoken by the Aborigines, in the vicinity of Hunters River, Lake Macquarie, New South Wales. The book describes the Awabakal language. This was followed in 1836 by an Australian spelling book in the language spoken by the Aborigines. Threlkeld worked on for some years and began translating the New Testament into the Hunters River language of the Aborigines. But by 1842 it was realized that he was having little or no success in his mission, which was then given up. Threlkeld had received a legacy from his father's estate, which apparently was spent on his mission house, and this reverted to the Crown when the mission was abandoned. In 1842 Threlkeld became pastor of the Congregational Church at Watsons Bay, Sydney, and in 1845 he was appointed minister of the Mariners' Church at Sydney and continued in this position until his death. In 1850 he published Tahiti to the Structure of the Aboriginal Language, and he was still working on a translation of the 4 Gospels when he died suddenly at Sydney. He was married twice and was survived by sons and daughters of both marriages. In 1892 an Australian language is spoken by the Awabakal, the people of Awabara, Lake Macquarie, being an account of the language, traditions and customs by L.E. Threlkeld, rearranged, condensed, and edited, with an appendix by John Fraser, B.A.R.D., was issued by the Government of New South Wales. Works: Aboriginal Mission, New South Wales. Specimens of a dialect of the Aborigines of New South Wales, being the first attempt to form the speech into a written language. Morning Prayers in the Awabakal dialect, digitized by Richard Mamona. A statement chiefly relating to the formation and abandonment of a mission to the Aborigines. An Australian grammar comprehending the principles and natural rules of the language as spoken by the Aborigines, in the vicinity of Hunters River, Lake Macquarie, and Sea, New South Wales. An Australian spelling book in the language as spoken by the Aborigines, in the vicinity of Hunters River, Lake Macquarie, New South Wales. A key to the structure of the Aboriginal language.